Welcome back to Undisputed. Man, did I ever enjoy talking about my Dallas Cowboys in our opening segment of the show, even though Aldon Smith is such a controversial figure. But now let's take it up a notch. Let's talk about an even more controversial figure. Yesterday in Miami, we saw Lamar Jackson, reigning MVP, working out, throwing passes to his teammate, Hollywood Brown, who's from, obviously, Hollywood, Florida. But what detonated the internet buzz was Lamar was also throwing to another guy in that workout who happens to be the cousin of Hollywood, and that man's name is Antonio Brown. And Lamar went so far as to post a picture in which he was hugging both Hollywood and Antonio, and then lots of video of him throwing balls to Antonio Brown. So I ask you, Shannon Sharp, what message was Lamar trying to send by posting those pictures and videos?
Well, the message that I got is that he's not practicing social distancing. Let's start with that one. And Skip, I didn't take too much out of it, Skip, because you're talking about all these guys are from Florida. Like you mentioned, Hollywood and Antonio are cousins, and he's probably, Lamar probably reached out to Hollywood and says, hey, bro, let's go throw. He's like, hey, man, you mind if Cuz tag along Antonio? Sure, no problem throwing the ball. Skip, let me tell you something about Baltimore. Now, I know Baltimore. There's two places I know better than any other two places in all the NFL. The Denver Broncos and the Baltimore Ravens. Now, the Baltimore Ravens culture, I like to think I had something to do with that. Because when I arrived in 2000, I made it about us. It's about team. It's about winning. You can get your individual goals, but nobody cares if we're not winning. So I like to think I had a little something to do with the culture that you see that thrives and flourishes in Baltimore. Antonio Brown is not a fit for there. You know why, Skip? Because he complains about getting 10, 13, 14 targets. Hell, there are some games Baltimore only throws the ball 14 times. Are they going to throw them all to him? Skip, he would lose his mind in a run first, run second offense when it's not about him. And the last thing you need is Lamar Jackson trying to worry about force-feeding a guy. Skip, those guys, Snead and Hollywood Brown and some of those other guys, David Andrews, they know the likelihood of them going out there having 10 catches, 13, 14 catches are slim to none because that's not their offense. And you would bring Antonio Brown into that? Skip, everybody always talks about, man, I just want to win. I want to win. But Skip, we all know if you play wide receiver, you want to win by catching 10 for $150 and 2 touchdowns. And that doesn't happen very often in that offense. Now, do I believe Antonio Brown deserves a second chance? Sure. But it's going to have to be go somewhere, Skip, where you have a coach that's established, a quarterback that's established, that can tell him, shut the F up when he starts complaining about not getting touches. That's the only way it's going to work. If you don't have a coach that's on stable footing and you don't have a quarterback that's established, he'll run amok.
I hear you, but I want to start with the first point that you made right out of the box. The first thing that caught my eye was the photo that Lamar posted. I think he actually retweeted it from Hollywood. But to your point, Shannon, in this day and age that we're all living in, barely, it was such a bad look and such a tone-deaf choice to post a picture of Lamar with his arms draped around the two cousins, obviously Hollywood, Antonio. And I don't know about what your household is like, Shannon, but I can tell you what mine is with my wife, Ernestine. She's out of her mind, and I'm getting out of my mind. You just run rampant with paranoia because it feels like you can't set foot outside your home without risking maybe your life. We're in a pandemic, and I realized Florida was one state in which the governor for a long time did not issue a stay-at-home order until just recently, and now it starts at midnight tonight in Florida. They do finally have a stay-at-home order. But we've had one for whatever it's been, 2 weeks here in Los Angeles, as you know, Shannon, and it's serious, serious business. Social distancing, even at the grocery store, constantly washing hands, Purelling hands, trying to stay away from people, and still reading horror stories about people getting it who tried to follow the rules. So you start to worry, does it float in the air? Can any of us sort of save ourselves from this virus? And there's a picture on social media of 3 good to great NFL players. They're all potentially great, obviously, and they are completely ignoring the moment that we're all stuck in right now. And at some moments during the day, you feel like the world is going to end. And obviously,
Skip,
those 3 pro football players need to look no farther than Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell and Kevin Durant and Sean Payton. They are not immune. They are not invincible. And I just don't like the message that they're sending with the picture first and foremost before we get to the video. Your thoughts?
Skip, and that's my point, Skip, is that athletes, Skip, we don't think anything. If I guarantee you, it had before Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert and some of these other NBA players got it, I guarantee you, if you would have polled every player, what do you think your chances or the likelihood of you contracting this virus is? I guarantee you, all of them would have said probably less than 5%. Most of them would have said 0. Skip, let me tell you the truth. Man, my homeboy coughed on the phone. I hung up on him. I don't know this thing, how contagious this thing is. So you cough or sneeze on the phone, click, I'm hanging up. I ain't taking no chances. Don't get around me hooking and hawking and all that kind of stuff. No. But hey, man, people, you know what, Skip? I think the thing was that, oh, it's just the flu. You get the flu. But what we're finding out, Skip, that this thing is 3 times more deadly than the flu. And there's a vaccination for the flu. There are no vaccination for this. And it's quick. It's sudden. And, well, young people can't get it. Now, all of a sudden, young people are dying from it. So you better give this thing the seriousness that it deserves before it's too late. But, Skip, like I said, I was in that locker room from 2000 to 2001, and I like to think I had something to do with the culture and how they interact with one another. It's about the team, Skip. They had great players. But as I explained to Ray when I first got there, yes, you can be great, but you'll go unknown, you'll go unnoticed if you don't win.
Yep, well said. Okay, back to the football part of this equation, the less meaningful part of this equation, the now almost irrelevant part of this equation. According to those who cover today's Ravens, the Ravens are not interested in Antonio Brown because the Ravens are already committed to building through the draft, as they did with Marquise Brown, Hollywood Brown, last year out of the University of Oklahoma in the first round. And as you know, Shannon, this draft is loaded with receivers.
Loaded.
It is thick with receivers, first round, second round, third round. You can score a receiver somewhere in the first 3 rounds, and I'm sure they have targeted their man already in Baltimore. So I think they would rather go that direction, because now we're back to, this has been the ongoing theme of this show, reinstatement. I don't know if Randy Gregory will be reinstated. I certainly don't know if Aldon Smith will be. And I definitely don't know whether Antonio Brown will be reinstated, if or when, because Antonio's recent problems off the field, his issues, legal issues, are so deep and so dark in so many ways that it's hard for me to believe. Obviously, he missed most of last season already, but I'm not sure he's going to be reinstated for next year. I'm just not sure of it, so it may be a moot point. So that brings me to Lamar. I love Lamar, and his team loves him, and he is a player's quarterback where everybody in the locker room loves him. He's not aloof. He's not distant. He's one of the fellas. So to your point, when Marquise Brown, Hollywood, said, hey, can I bring Cuz with me, Antonio? Well, Lamar's going to say sure, because they all have Miami connections, and they all feel like they're Miami brothers. And I think Lamar wanted to post the picture and post the video just to help campaign for Antonio to get back into the NFL, to at least get somebody to open their eyes and say, okay, I'll risk giving him a chance. Because I think Lamar was just trying to bless him, saying, hey, I still believe in him. I want to show you how much I believe in him as a player because, Shannon, was I surprised what I saw in the video? Listen, Antonio isn't good. He's great. He might be all-time great. And when I was watching him run the routes, the digs, the out routes, the deep routes, it's just sensational quickness and burst. And it's still there. And we saw it briefly catching passes from Tom Brady in Miami last year when they won 43-0. He caught whatever it was, 4 balls for 85 yards and a big touchdown. But that was his one and only game for the Patriots. And he blew up that situation and burned that bridge. And he's burned a lot of bridges. He burned his bridge in Oakland during the Hard Knocks filming, obviously. And I just don't know what future he has, near future in the NFL. But I admire Lamar because I don't think he was campaigning for Antonio to be a Raven as much as he was just trying to say, hey, remember he's here. And he's still a decent guy in my eyes. And I still like hanging with him. And I love throwing passes to him. So I think Lamar was just trying to do a solid for Cuz Antonio, just to say, hey, NFL, I'm throwing to him, and he looks really good. And I'm okay with that message from Lamar.
Skip, I don't have a problem with that if the circumstances and the timing was different. If this is a normal time, got no problem. Hang out, have lunch with him, show y'all working out together, having lunch together, doing all that other stuff, talking football. I got no problem with that. But Skip, this is not a normal situation. Lamar's going to have to use better judgment. Skip, remember he was in his car driving with his Cuban chain, and I think he posted how fast he was going. Lamar, you are a face of a franchise. You're going to have to use better judgment, bruh. This is what is expected. To whom much is given, much is required. You don't get the luxury now. And I know people go, oh, Lamar, do your thing. No, bro. That's not how it works. Don't you let these knuckleheads out here convince you that what you're doing is okay. Be smart. I understand that you got no problem with Antonio. I don't have a problem with Antonio. But in this situation, it just comes off, as Skip said, you said, Skip, tone deaf, that you're oblivious to what's going on. And that's all that's on every channel other than sports channel and even on sports, because there is no sports currently. So that should give you context to just how serious. Skip, they don't cancel sporting events for the flu. That should tell you how serious the seriousness of this virus. When have you ever known them to cancel something for the flu? I get people get the flu, and I get people die with the flu. But we haven't seen anything like this, Skip. You have to go back to maybe the smallpox or when they had the outbreaks of the influenza way back when that wiped out so many people, or the bubonic plague. Skip, this is 2020. This is not the late 1800s, early 1900s. This is 21st century.
I am so with you on that. And yet, big picture, Lamar Jackson, to your point about how he carries himself and needs to carry himself, he had a season for the ages last year. He was a runaway MVP. He threw 36 touchdown passes. I've never seen anything like it. The guy who can't throw, the guy who some people said belongs at wide receiver, dominated this league as a thrower as well as a runner. And Baltimore, to me, over the second half of the regular season, was easily the best team in pro football. So the point here is, and obviously then the starters didn't play much for 3 weeks, and it was obviously rust over rest when they ran into the hot Titans, and they lost. They got knocked out, and I'm sure that's going to stick with Lamar for the rest of his life, just the way that Jacksonville loss sticks with Shannon Sharp for the rest of his life when they lost a playoff game at home.